So in the previous videos, we have seen about the basic details related to the topic of fundamental rights. And now it is the turn to study the fundamental rights. What exactly are the rights that we are given by the Constitution in the part 3 of the Constitution? And the first set of fundamental rights, if you remember that we have done the classification on several bases, one of the bases was that what is the criteria, or let's say what is the classification given in the Constitution itself. And we have seen that there are 6 types of fundamental rights presently. Earlier it was 7, now it is 6. The first of the categories include the right to equality. But before we understand, which I'll be taking up from the next video, before we understand that what are the rights exactly given to us regarding this equality, what is this theory of equality? What is this concept of equality? Because in the prelims, they have asked you the questions related to these concepts also. And this is borrowed from your standard 11th NCERT, the political theory. So there is a chapter on equality. Please do read the chapter once you finish the video so that you get a holistic understanding of what we are actually covering here. Now, this concept of the theory of equality will try to understand in different you would say headings or maybe subheadings. So 4 major concepts is what we are trying to cover. The first concept or the first question that we would try to answer is that why does equality matter? पूरी दुनिया में जब आज ये बात हो रही है इक्वालिटी होना चाहिए, so definitely the first question would be that why does this matter, right? The second question that we'll try to answer is that what is equality? Definitely इसके multiple dimensions होंगे that we'll try to see. The third question would be the dimensions of equality. Once we finish these 3 major headings, then I'll take you to the 4th heading, which I'll not tell you right now for the reason that once you understand this as a part of the story, then it will be easier for you to figure out that what could be the next or the final heading that we would try to answer here in this concept. So when we ask the question that why does this idea of equality matter, so we need to figure out that what exactly is equality, हम next में देखेंगे. But एक रफ हमें पता है equality जब हम बात करते हैं समानता की, ठीक है, कि सबको एक जैसा ट्रीट करना चाहिए in a very very broader language. So we need to figure out that this gives us 2 very important ideals here. One is the moral ideal, another is the political ideal. Okay? Now, when we talk about the moral ideal, what does it mean? See, there are many things which are implicit in all the faiths and the religions. Okay? And one of those basic things, for example, one would be, let's say, mutual respect, harmony, etc., peace, truth, non-violence. These are the things you more or less you will find in all the faith and the religions. But definitely equality is also something that you will find implicitly there. It's not needed that any religion or any religious text would specifically mention that okay, you should have an equal society. It might be implicit also, which is something very very fundamental, right? Something very basic that we need to have that equal treatment. And the political idea would be that there should be equal worth of all human beings, right? So irrespective of the color of somebody, gender, race, nationality, whatever it is, there should be equal treatment or equal worth of all human beings which should be considered. And therefore, once we have both of these ideas into picture and we try and understand that what exactly are we talking about, we will understand that we talk about a shared or a common humanity where there will be equal consideration of respect for each other. Okay? So this much is, I hope you will very clearly understand. But there is a paradox that despite of understanding that this is such a significant concept, this is so important, and it provides us these ideals, there still exists a paradox. And what is that paradox is that in our society, even though we talk about equality, this is something that is not much visible. And what is much visible? So, or much, or you can say maybe most visible in our society is inequality. We keep talking about equality, but equality is not something that we find as visible much. What we find as visible much is inequality, and that too globally, rather than equality. So, the whole paradox is that everyone accepts this idea of equality. It is accepted by everyone, but almost everywhere what we encounter is inequality. So even though everyone accepts the idea of equality, everybody would be ready to talk about it, but when we try finding it in the world, everywhere we find the idea of inequality, or we see the idea of inequality. So we need to understand that to answer this paradox, definitely equality or the concept matters. So now the question would be, what do you understand by equality, or what is meant by equality? So again, in a very broader terminology, or in a very broader idea, if we try to answer, we can say that it is about treating people with equal respect. But then you would see, or you would say that is it practically possible that we are trying to treat them in a very equal manner, or let's say in an identical manner? But यहीं पे क्वेश्चन आता है कि इक्वालिटी में भी वेरिएंस रहेंगे. For example, when we are saying that we need to treat people with equal respect, this does not always mean that this equal respect would mean identical. No. Identical मतलब बिल्कुल एक जैसे twins होते हैं ना, so they are identicals. So it's not important that when we say equal respect, it means identical treatment. No. And what is the need here? The need here is differential treatment. We'll talk more on this in the subsequent slides. The need here is of the differential treatment. So broader है ये idea equality का. सुनने में तो ऐसा लगेगा कि we have to treat like everybody in an equal manner or in an equal fashion. But no, here is the whole contradiction, that this difference of treatment is very important, because it is this differential treatment. What is differential treatment? That we are treating different persons in a different manner and still adhering to equality. But yes, these two sounds very ironical, but how does they really figure out in the society? We'll try to answer that now. So this is very important for the smooth functioning of the society. Why? Because we know a very clear idea that in a society there is going to be, let's say, the division of work or labor in every sphere. This you would agree? Okay? This we cannot say that in a society we will have such an egalitarian society wherein everybody would just do same job. Because to treat then somebody equally or everybody equally, you would need to place them in that situation only, that everybody is doing the same job, which is practically not possible in a society, right? So there is always going to be the division of work or let's say labor in society. That is going to happen. And therefore, when there will be different job, you will have to give different status or rewards to the people accordingly. Okay? Now, let's say we talk about, for example, the positions like, let's say, important positions of, let's say, Prime Minister or Army General or somebody of that significant post. So we do understand that they get a special rank and status. And यहाँ पे will not say that the privileges that they are getting, is not something that they should have got. You cannot treat an ordinary citizen with somebody of that dignified post. But again, the question is that in the eyes of the law, which actually we'll figure out in your next video, wherein we'll see the articles, that how does the constitution ensure that we maintain the privileged position of these important dignitaries or any such person for that matter, and still we treat them equal in the eyes of the law. ठीक है, तो ये सारे कॉन्सेप्ट हम नेक्स्ट में करेंगे. बट द क्वेश्चन दैट आई वाज ट्राइंग टू आंसर इज दैट ऑन वन हैंड, लेट्स से व्हेन यू acknowledge the idea, that in society there is division of work, because of which there is different status given to different people. For example, let's say I gave the example of dignitaries. So in this case, this is something acceptable. But let's say there is a child born in a slum area and the child is not getting nutritious food or good health facilities or education, etc. What is the fault of the child? There is no fault of the child, and still the child is not getting these basic things which the child should have got. So in this case, we will not accept this injustice or inequality. So I hope you're understanding that certain differential treatment we are accepting, certain we are not accepting. ठीक है, इसमें और भी चीज़ें आएंगी. Let's say we talk about the issues related to, let's say, the physically challenged people, the divyangs. So let's say if somebody, and this will come in the for the slides as I just mentioned. So let's say you talk about somebody who is in a public space and having the physical disability related to, let's say, walking, and if the person demands ramps, what is so issue about it? Definitely the person should be given that. So differential treatment should be seen in that positive sense, right? So some differential treatment would be acceptable in the society based on the situation, some would be unacceptable. So now the question would be that the ones which you are not able to accept, the ones which are unacceptable form of equality, how do we understand that, or how do we recognize that? Now see, what could be the different variants of the unacceptable form of equality? Something which should be very, very clear that this is something that we're not going to accept at any cost. So when this differential treatment is given to people because of the birth, कि इनका बर्थ जो है वो किसी स्पेसिफिक रिलीजन में हुआ है या कास्ट में या जेंडर में एट्सेट्रा. सो इफ the basis of differential treatment becomes such basis, then that is not what we are going to accept as a form of equality. But let's say अगर हम बात करें कि acceptable क्या होगा, so if there are people in the society who are achieving different goals and ambitions because they have certain talents and they are showing that talent, and it is because of the talents they are achieving that position, and definitely there still exists a status quo in that manner and the difference in the status. So that is something that you will have to accept. But this is something will not accept that only because somebody is born in a particular religion, caste, gender, etc. you are going to treat that person in a discriminatory manner or in an unequal manner. Okay, I hope this is what you're getting, like the basic idea. Now in this, so there comes a very major point related to when we are trying to talk about the acceptable form of society, and we need to talk about the concept of equality of opportunity here. Why? Because to be able to fulfill that goal, ambition, and to showcase the talent, the person would need to get that equality of opportunity, and therefore all human beings. Okay? At least this is something that basic, what we should ensure is that all human beings are entitled to the same rights and opportunities so that they can develop their talents and skills. Okay? So what is significant is not the lack of equality of status, etc. But what is that, are we even giving them enough opportunity to develop themselves? Even if we are assuring that we are going good in the direction of equality, because everybody cannot develop the same set of skills, cannot showcase that, cannot be treated equally in that sense. But how they can be treated equally? They can be treated equally by at least providing them with equality of opportunity. This is something we can assure because all are human beings, and by the virtue of being human beings, they're supposed to get everything in an equal manner, at least the opportunities in an equal manner. Now then it would depend on them if they are able to showcase that or not. Now within this only there comes another, you can say, a kind of a sub idea or a sub concept, wherein we'll try to understand about the two basic forms of inequality, which is your natural and social inequality. Understand this because there will be certain contradictions given in this also. Now, when we talk about natural inequality, what is natural? Something which you understand, which is existing with you on the basis of birth, and something which you just cannot alter, right? So this emerges between people as a result of the different capability or the capacities or the talents that they have, and they're born with that, something that is naturally and we just cannot alter it. But social would be something that is created by the society. It is society which is inducing that, or socially produced or induced inequalities. And this is happening because of, let's say, exploitation or thought process or some values which have been constantly existing in the society and continuing in the society. All of that would result in this. So here the whole question now would be कि इन दोनों के केस में डील कैसे करेंगे, how do we solve this problem. Now see, so some, just by saying that the natural inequalities are already since existing since birth and this is something that we just cannot find a solution to, would not be right, for the reason that there might be some inequalities which are definitely natural and existing for very very long in the society, but at times they become so acceptable and justifiable in the society. Okay, for example, you talk about, let's say, women. Okay, so biologically they're considered to be a weaker sex, despite of the fact that they are the ones who are giving birth to a new life, okay, and bearing so much of pain and all of that. Still, it is the women which is considered a weaker sex, and this has been an accepted norm in the society. They are considered as lesser intelligent than men, and they would feel that, okay, special protection etc is needed, and so many things related to that. So the whole idea is that there are a certain things now, because being a woman is a natural thing. You don't choose to be a male or a female, that is something that happens naturally to you, but this becomes so justifiable and acceptable in the society that the inequalities that arise out of that are considered as so very genuine and accepted in a very in a manner that, okay, this needs no change. On the other hand, there is an issue or there is a problem with this idea of natural inequality also. For example, there are some differences that you cannot deny कि हाँ ये natural नहीं है. I mean, some differences, like let's say the physical disability, that definitely is natural, but now you cannot say that these are unalterable. Why? Because now the advancements in technology, the medicines have happened so much that it is helping even the disabled people to act in a very very efficient manner. They are as able as anybody else. So why do we discriminate? Let's say the example you take of the very very famous person Stephen Hawking. The contribution that this person has given to science, despite of all the physical challenges that he had to go through, is undeniable, something that you just cannot question. So in this case, can we not say that they are at, in fact, even beyond just a normal person who is having every physical functioning very very properly being done, and the person is doing the normal household stuffs? So in this case, what is the major source of concern is not actually the natural inequality, because we do have solutions to it, but actually the problem or the concern for the policymakers or the government should be to tackle this social inequality, because this is all about the family situations, the circumstances situation, and the things that are induced by the society. I hope you have got a broader picture of equality here. Now when we talk about the dimensions of equality, definitely which is existing in the society, we see it in three broader categories. One is your political, another is your social, another is your economic. These three broader classifications we have to cover here. When we talk about the political equality, in a very very broader concept, this is all about the political and the legal dimensions of it. For example, let's say हमने बोला voting right हो गई, फिर जब हमने बोला था कि citizenship के साथ जो है equal citizenship देना to all the state members. So these are something very looking something very obvious कि हाँ politically, and let's say the concept like equality before law, which we'll be doing in the next video as an article of the constitution or as a right given in the constitution, that okay, everybody is equal before the law. Okay, so these are the very broader ideas, but there is a challenge to it also. Why? Despite of this idea existing, we do have differences in resource and opportunity. Not everybody gets equal resources, not everybody gets equal opportunity, which creates a problem in assuring the socio-economic equality. So despite of this having the political equality, it is not able to too much contribute to the other equalities or the other forms or the dimensions of equality, because we have the challenges associated. And therefore, what is the demand in this case? To assure that we have equality, the demand in this case is to demand of equal, or let's say demand of level playing field. That to assure all the dimensions of equality, we need to give level playing field to people because we have resource constraints. Okay. Next comes your social equality. तो अगर social का idea हम करेंगे, so definitely it is about that you have to guarantee certain minimum life conditions to everybody, है ना, all the society members. What could be it? Like health हो गया, education हो गया, nourishment हो गया, like good food हो गया, etc. ठीक है. एंड जो हमने अभी पिछले इसमें बात करी थी इक्वालिटी ऑफ अपॉर्चुनिटी को लेकर, सो इफ़ देयर इज एब्सेंस ऑफ इक्वालिटी ऑफ अपॉर्चुनिटी, you will understand that so many talented people now might not be able to harness their talent because you're not able to give them equality of opportunity. Then there could be some issues like, let's say there is lack of facilities or some customs associated to something. For example, women, if you talk about, despite of the legal provisions about the inheritance rights, women are not getting that in reality. And if you, let's say, talk about, there might be social prohibitions for certain women of, let's say, certain age group or certain marital status or something of that sort, which would prevent them from taking part in some activities. So the whole idea is that in such cases, it is the state which will have to take the step to do away with such sort of discrimination. Otherwise, how are we going to achieve the social dimension of equality? Now next comes your economic equality. So very, very broader idea and very clear idea also, that it would be about, because we have significant difference, not even very minor margin, it is like huge difference. You can say like significant difference in wealth, property, income between the individual and the classes. We do understand about this difference, right? So the whole idea is ki in this case you will have to bridge that. You cannot completely do away with economic inequality. That is highly impossible, because again the same thing, you have different status, different work, and accordingly you are paying to the person. Okay? But at least what we can do this, that we try to measure the relative difference between the rich and the poor. When we try to difference between rich and poor, so when we try to measure that difference and we try to at least minimize it, we cannot completely eliminate it, but at least minimize it. We can also try to estimate the number of people who are below the poverty line. So either it is about rich, poor, it is about below poverty line. These are the initiations that we can have. We can give equal opportunity, and at least, even I know that despite of the equal opportunity, we'll still have the inequalities, but at least there will be a possibility with that person, that they will be able to improve their position in the society. And there are forms of inequality which are entrenched in the society, entrenched as in continuing for generations and generations, that give the class differences, that increase it, and it results in violence also. So in this context only, you know about the two major philosophies. You must have also heard or at least read about it. For example, on you have Marxism and you have liberalism. This is given in your book, so I'm just trying to stick myself, to the limited thing which is given. Otherwise, these broad philosophies can be done in a very, very enriched manner. But here, just to deal with this idea that we are trying to figure out, one is Marxism. So Karl Marx, as you know, the most important political philosopher, the most famous one, has tried to talk about that what is this root cause of the entrenched inequality. So according to him, this root cause of entrenched inequality has been private ownership of important economic resources. You talk about land, you talk about forest, you talk about oil, you talk about any such thing. So private ownership की वजह से क्या होता है, inequality होती है. Because when somebody gets this power, private ownership होता है, तो उससे क्या होती है, they get wealth and also they get political power. Now when they get political power, they influence the state policies and the state decisions also. That is very obvious. When state decisions are influenced in such manner, definitely there is going to be a threat to the democratic government. Okay? So the government faces that threat, and it results, because of this economic inequality, it results in supporting the other forms of inequalities, especially the social one, because then you will have those differences in ranks and privileges, and you will not treat everybody equally. So how we can tackle this? We need to go beyond providing equal. This is what Marxism suggests, that go beyond providing equal opportunity and ensure public control over essential resources. That is the whole debate, communism and capitalism ka. But we are not going into that debate, just giving you a broader idea. So here, according to them, to tackle such things, what you need to do? You need to go beyond providing equal opportunity. And what do you do next? You ensure public control over essential resources. That it is the state that should control and not the private ownership should be there. On the other hand, liberalism talks about that the most efficient form or way in the society of resource distribution is free and fair competition. So this, according to the liberalism idea, all liberals, is that you should have free and fair competition in the society, which will ensure the fair distribution of resources and rewards. States might need to intervene. Okay? States का intervention is okay, but not full control. States intervention is okay so that they can ensure at least minimum living standard to everybody, which is needed. Okay? And also equal opportunity that should be given. But despite of the state intervention, we know that there will not be equality and justice, and therefore what will help will be the free and fair competition. So this will give the reward to the talented people कि भाई अगर आपके अंदर टैलेंट है तो आप समाज में आके अपनी जगह बना लो. ठीक है. And such kind of things. Therefore, let's say we have entrance examinations, ठीक है, for any higher educational institution है, किसी job के लिए है. So ये सब यहाँ पे practically apply होता दिखता है. ठीक है. And according to them, now here they also said that economic की वजह से there will be social inequality also. So it has talked about a linkage between different forms of society. So that you will have, like, let's say, ranks, etc., privileges, etc. But here it is believed that there is no link between different forms of inequality. They all are different in their structure, and therefore tackle them differently. Okay. So for them the problem is not inequality, because they understand that inequality तो रहेगा. But for them the problem is the unjust inequality, because it is preventing the individual from developing their capabilities. So what they are focusing on, that you give them the fair and free competition and opportunities. Here what they are giving the idea कि भाई इससे के आगे बढ़ो, equal opportunity से कुछ नहीं होगा. The state and there should be public control over the essential resources and not the private ownership. So these are the broader differences. These are the three major headings that we have understood, that why does equality matter, what is equality, and then dimensions of equality within this two major political ideologies. There are many, but just restricting ourselves to the contents of the NCERT. So what could be the next heading and the last one? That then, despite of having all these challenges and everything, how do you suggest? So the major heading next or last would be that how can we promote equality. इतना तो आपने बता दिया, अब ये भी बता दो कि भाई equality को promote कैसे करें. ठीक है, that would be the next question, that how can you promote equality. So again, this is talked on three different levels. The first is about establishing formal equality. And how do you establish formal equality? Formal equality मतलब जो भी formal inequality है उसको ख़त्म करके. So whatever protection you are giving to any custom or legal system which is resulting in inequality, you finish that. ठीक है, so here let's say हमारा constitution कैसे role play करता है. So formal would mean bringing law into picture. So how the constitution helps? Let's say it prohibits discrimination. अभी आप पढ़ोगे अगले articles, the couple of articles, so you will understand this. So it prohibits discrimination on the basis of, let's say, religion, race, caste, sex, place of birth, etc. Then it also abolishes untouchability, etc. So these are the things जहाँ पे आपको एक formal step लेना पड़ेगा to ensure equality and do away with the formal, unequal or the discriminatory systems. Next thing that they talk about, how can we promote, is by equality through differential treatment, about which I have already briefed earlier. So here just seeing the examples. For example, आपसे मैंने बात करी थी ramps for physically disabled people in the public spaces. This is a very genuine treatment that you would give them, even if it is differential. But then by giving this differential treatment only, you can ensure equality for them. Okay, so you cannot call this as to be infringement of equality, because we are trying to rather enhance equality in this case. Okay, then another would be resulting from this differential treatment only, the concept of affirmative action. You should be familiar with this word because ये आपको fundamental right में भी आएगा. ठीक है, affirmative action क्या होता है? Basically that you are taking, affirmative means positive, so you are taking positive measures to deal with the inequality. How do you do that? So this is basically based on the idea that it is just not always possible and sufficient to establish formal equality by law only. ठीक है, so because there have been certain groups who in past have suffered, this is based on this idea, this is not my idea, this is based on this idea, what they are telling, that there have been groups which have suffered the past inequalities, and you need to help them, and you cannot treat them like equally with the other groups, so you need to help them to come out of that situation. So basically you are taking the positive measures here to help them, or let's say to minimize and eliminate the entrenched, जो कि इतने टाइम से चला आ रहा है, ठीक है, form of social inequality. So to tackle that, you are taking certain positive measures. And what could be the example on it? For example, let's say you give scholarships to a certain group of people, you have the quotas, you have the reservation, चाहे वो job हो या academic हो. See, reservation is altogether a very different and a bigger issue, and we'll try to see that when we do especially articles 15 and 16 for that matter. But abhi ke liye just understand at what could be the possible examples of this affirmative action. Now also you understand that it's not that these things will not be questioned. There are arguments given against reservation also. For example, it is said, the people who are criticizing this idea of reservation, they're also definitely claiming that this is a very unfair provision, and you are trying to help somebody out, but at the cost of not giving that opportunity to somebody else. So basically you are denying others their right of equal treatment. in the name of giving equal treatment to some specific groups, you're trying to deny some other groups as the equal treatment. And reservations को actually जो लोग criticize करते हैं वो बोलते हैं कि ये reverse discrimination है, ठीक है. However, we still are continuing with this idea. I'm just giving you both the perspectives because in this exam you would need the balanced perspective, and therefore they say that it is better to do away with such kind of distinctions which are dividing the society. And when we also talk about differential treatment, we need to understand that this should be justified, and this is obvious, right? It should not be arbitrary that you are differentially treating any random grouping. No, it has to be justified to the ones which are actually needy, because your whole idea is to promote just an egalitarian society. So you need to have that caution that ऐसा नहीं होना चाहिए that by doing this or by doing this you are actually creating differences in the society which you wanted to remove initially. So you always have to have that caution that there should not come a new structure of dominance or oppression which you wanted to eliminate. ठीक है? So this gives you a broader picture. I would again suggest you have class 11th NCERT of political theory. There is a chapter on equality. Please do go through it so that you broadly understand this concept. We have tried to do this in greater detail, and I hope any question that comes from this area conceptually in the prelims you would be able to answer. In the next video we'll continue talking about the exact rights which are given. So from article 14 we'll start discussion. Thank you so much guys. Take care till then. Bye bye.